Hello, my friends. I am here to discuss the Breath of the Wild sequel with all of you, but I'm going to do something different here. With my Luigi's Mansion video, that was the first one I ever did where I, really closely examined all the shots of it. This time, I'm going to do something live. I'm going to do something frame by frame. Well, not exactly frame by. I keep saying that. It's still going to be shot by shot, but I'm going to be taking it frame by frame through the entire video and talking about it as I go along rather than recording it and then later editing in those parts. Let's do it. Okay, so, I don't know if you know this, but there's this Zelda. This is it right here. It starts dark, okay? I'm gonna go forward a little bit at a more normal speed. So these weird little flute-ly things come in. I can't quite tell if they're like sort of starting to make some symbols or if they're really just squigglies. I'm really not sure, but they're weird little squiggle woggles. Like right there, it kind of becomes a symbol, like as it floats along or something like that. That one right there, you kind of see it. I don't know if it's just going randomly or sort of taking shape. I'm not really sure. Possibly a detail that doesn't matter. So here's the first really interesting shot here. And of course, when you're first watching the trailer, you really don't even know what's going on. You can't even tell. We know, assuming that you've seen the trailer already. You've seen the trailer. You know that there's a dude down there with a hand on him. So when I first saw this this place, this weirdness here, I actually did get sort of a Zelda vibe, and of course the music going on right here is eerie. It's weird, and there's like a sort of a choir, but it's going backwards. And we'll talk about the music in a little bit. But it's very eerie. But I'm looking at these different shapes. Looking at the shapes over here, and especially like this stuff with like the patterns on them, and to an extent, the weird patterns in this. It gave me like a Twilight Princess vibe. And of course, like in the moment, like the brain doesn't quite know what it's seeing. And I was thinking Twilight Princess between the music and the visual. I didn't want to get my hopes up or anything. I didn't even have time for that thought to come out of my mouth. But it was a Twilight Princess vibe for sure. And so we, this weird thing here, it looks like Link and Zelda are under Hyrule Castle. That's what we can assume, at least based on what happens at the end. So we have to wonder where this is. Is this a secret chamber? Is this something that has always been here? And that's my main question about this. Is this something that is happening that is new? Or is this something that has always been happening? Have they always had the weird form of who I assume is Ganondorf down here, just trapped in some way? And to me, that doesn't exactly make sense. I wouldn't think that Ganon's weird, crazy spirit pig form would break away from his body and his regular Ganondorf body. Like, he transforms, and I assume this was Calamity Ganon was an incarnation of him. Whereas if this is true and that his human body has always been down here, that would suggest that it is less of an incarnation and more of just, an extension of him. Do you know what I'm saying? Like almost like his body, they did say he gave up on reincarnation, so he assumed a spirit form. It could be more that his body couldn't go any longer, reverted back to a Gerudo and just kind of withered away, but his immortal spirit lived on. I'm really not sure. And I have to wonder if this is something that maybe Zelda, and for more reasons that we'll see in a little bit, I wonder if this is something that has always been happening. Maybe there's a spell on his body and that's how they're able to stop him, but Calamity Ganon broke free despite that. Maybe they didn't even know that this was a thing. Maybe this got buried. I'm really not sure, but we will have to find out. Let's go a little bit further now. Clicky, clicky, clicky. Some nice swirling, some weird like black tentacle goopy things on the bottom there. All right, so here is definitely something I could not see the first time watching. That's what this is for. That's what this whole thing is for. So here we see some sort of man. There's a torch that comes up to look at this picture of what appears to be a man on a horse, a Ganondorf on a horse. I don't know. He's holding a trident. He's on a horse. He's got some sort of weird armor. It appears to be what it is. To me, if you ask me. It is a little blurry, but I don't know. Just looks like that kind of guy on a dark horse kind of thing going on. Holding a trident, which is obviously a Ganon thing. Usually just Ganon. I don't know if I've seen Ganondorf holding a trident, but It's Ganondorf riding on riding on a horse, obviously. So, which sort of means that this, sorry, I moved forward a little too fast. Which could mean that this area is a place that has existed like this for a long time, and people are depicting it on the walls as sort of a decoration, you could say, which sort of, yeah, lends credence to that idea. This was a well-established place a long time ago. Here is just a nice fancy shot of the weird spirit, weirdo hand coming down onto the Ganondorf corpse and all the stuff there. Just sort of a nice, pretty shot here. Move forward a little bit. And what we have next was the shot that really made me explode, because this is clearly Zelda. This is clearly like Breath of the Wild going on. So we have Link is standing, and looks like Zelda is riding on this big beastie guy. So it's kind of like they're, I don't know, they look like they're ready for a long journey. And that's an interesting part of this, because it's like, if they are just down under the ruins of Hyrule Castle, it could mean that the ruins go down really, really far. Or maybe they're actually traveling to a place. Maybe they're not under Hyrule Castle. Maybe at the end when Hyrule Castle starts to rise up or something, maybe that's a result of what they do here, but maybe that's not in the same place. It's really hard to tell, but like, that's a big pack animal. They've got a lot of stuff that they're all packed up to do. So it looks like they're traveling. When I first saw this shot, I thought, oh, maybe they're traveling to a new kingdom or something. But obviously, these are ruins that have been here for a super long time. They're all crumbling. There's some pretty little crystals there. We see a little Mr. Ratterson there. And they've got their torches. They were prepared to come down to a place like this. Okay, so right here, we get probably the most important piece of information in all of this, and that is Zelda's got a haircut. It looks kind of nice. She's wearing a traveling cloak, got a more, easy to use haircut, easier to maintain, which could suggest a little more action. It could just mean nothing. It could just be that she's, it's easier for travel or something. But probably not worth calling too much attention to it. I'm not sure, except for a reason that we'll go over in a little bit. Here we get our first shot of the corpse in the middle of the room, and we see that it is being grabbed by the weirdo spirity grabby hand. And the really interesting thing about most of this, that my takeaway is that Link and Zelda do not seem to be surprised about what they find here. And I do suspect that a lot of the shots of this trailer are kind of jumbled around in a weird way that I don't quite understand. But it doesn't look like they come, they don't look at him and then it shows them walking later, like traveling, and then they're looking at him again. I think they're all kind of mixed up. But it does sort of seem like if you came in here, would you just kind of like slowly walk up and just be like, huh, interesting. So I think it could be that they're actually coming down here to view something that they know about. They went on this journey or whatever to go down and find this weird Ganondorf corpse and take a look at him. Like maybe, I don't know if they accidentally end up causing a problem or if there is a problem they need to go see, but they're moving very slowly and ponderously, and when they get here, they're not super surprised. So I don't really know. There's a lot of ways that it could go, but they're just kind of looking at it. They don't seem to be like super concerned, So I don't really know. It's really hard to tell. I mean, it's looking all goopy, but is it always that goopy? Yeah, see? And then it cuts to another shot of them, taking a break. They're, they've obviously been walking through this cavern for a super long time, so I really don't know. It doesn't seem like they're just under Hyrule Castle, unless it just goes down and down and down. They got their pack animal and taking a little drink and stuff, which is nice. It's good to stay hydrated, I suppose. Definitely out of order. I mean, it wouldn't make sense otherwise. And it is an interesting choice. I don't know why they wouldn't just showing them coming down and then getting to him. Maybe it's to create a weird sense of, dissonance or something. So here's a great one. We see the little Mr. Ratman in a very sad shot. This is when things start to get weird. And we see this goop, this malice goop that probably the same kind that we saw in Breath of the Wild, all over the place. But now it is very active and it is moving around, and it seems to, very sadly, get goopy all over the Mr. Ratterkins there. Mr. or Ms. Ratterkins. We do not know the fate of the rat. Maybe it just died. Maybe it becomes a rat monster. It's very, very possible. We have no idea. I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be coming directly from the body, at least not in the scene that we see. So I'm not exactly sure what the deal with that one is, but it definitely looks pretty gross. I could probably like pick out a bunch of shapes, just be like, oh, it's a Goron over here, so it's gotta be, this looks like a bird. No, probably not though. Sort of walking across this this crumbled bridge here. Maybe they're trying to find a way across or something, not really sure. Link maybe even looking over the edge. And so this is another one where we don't know what they're reacting to. It's hard for me to believe that this is them seeing the corpse, because it's like, it's a sort of a surprise reaction, but not a very big one. They're kind of just looking straight ahead. And then Zelda looks like just a little bit over, and then is like, what? And then Link's like, what? Like, she saw something that interested her, but it certainly wasn't something really amazing. So that could just be a shot of anything. Maybe she just found a door or found a symbol on the wall or something like that. Probably nothing too amazing. We move forward and we see another excellent shot. We're getting, and I love it, throughout the trailer, we're like getting closer and closer to this corpse and like slowly kind of seeing what's happening. Of course, the YouTube encoding doesn't really do it any favors because it's so dark. We see the weird swirliness, and then this is when we get our first really good look at the corpse here. And when I first watched it, I kind of thought it was maybe like the corpse of the King of Hyrule or something. It just kind of, I couldn't really tell what it was, and it's all kind of decorated. We can see jewelry, rags hanging off of it, long hair. We're not exactly sure, and I suppose it's supposed to be a little mysterious at first. Here we see, it's the hand. This is the really good close-up of the hand, and it's a little confusing. It, like, that design, that kind of design on the arm, it just seems like such a Zelda thing. It's so common in Zelda. Like, and the color combination, I almost feel like it's something I've seen before. You know what I mean? It's reminiscent of so many things. It reminds me of the pale color of Girahim. It reminds me of the big scary hand coming out of Midna's head. It reminds me of any number of just kind of future-y, ancient kind of technology that they have. So like, it makes me think this is a thing I should know of already. But I don't think it is. I've been looking around and I can't see anyone else's talking about it who seem to know exactly what this hand is. So like, he's like, is this a bad guy? Is this a new kind of bad guy separate from Ganondorf and it's reviving Ganondorf? Is this like some weird Zelda from another dimension that was keeping it at bay? Sort of like this Zelda was keeping Ganon at bay. We don't really know. We don't know what it's doing to him. Is it feeding him power? Is it keeping power from him? Is it a bad guy or a good guy? It kind of looks like the tentacles are coming out of the hand, but it also looks like it's incapacitating this corpse. Of course, this is when we start to really realize that this is probably a Ganondorf we're looking at. The jewelry is kind of reminiscent of Gerudo jewelry, as we see in other parts in the game, and especially the crystal on the forehead. That's a very Ganon thing. But I do think at this point it's probably still supposed to be a mystery. Here we have Link. It could be he kind of reaches in and then like rears back. It could be him just reaching in, you know, that thing where you reach into a force field and it shocks you or whatever and you pull back. There's any number of things that could be happening here. Then we see the weird glorpy gloop going up into the ceiling where the hand seems to be coming from and kind of exploding. We don't know if this was caused by Link touching it or if this is completely separate, but this weird malice stuff is kind of going crazy. Then we see a hand reaching down to grab. That is not Link on the bottom, that is Zelda on the bottom. So I have to assume that Zelda is the one who is like falling or something and Link is reaching out to grab her, perhaps. This is where things get really wacky. So then we see like the entrance of the temple or something. Camera pulls in. Then we see what looks like Link's hand reaching up, but then this weird thingy hand grabs him. When I first saw it, I thought it was the hand reaching up and then the hand turns into the goopy hand, but it's not. Zelda is reaching up to Link, and then Link is reaching up and gets grabbed by this weird hand. Is it taking him somewhere? Is it a bad hand? Who really knows? It all goes by very fast. Then we get this. Now that is a Ganon guy, if I've ever seen one before. That the form looks a lot more like him in the face. It's hard for me to know if this is like some sort of, if this represents some other thing, if this is like a weird spirit shadow we're seeing, or if this is just a very literal exact shadow of the hand reaching down to him. I'm not really sure, but like that hand keeps grabbing him. Or is that the hand coming off of him? Perhaps. What is going on in that shot? It's like impossible to know. Light dies down. Then we come over here. We see Link looking at some sort of glowy in front of him. Is it a glowy hole? Is that a glowy hole that maybe Zelda fell into? It looks like there's little debris getting sucked into it, kind of maybe. Then probably another out of order pass shot. We see Zelda and Link looking up at something. Yeah, there you go. There's the hole opening up. Zelda falls down. This is probably what immediately precedes Link jumping out and grabbing her hand. Then we go back to before any of this was happening. Time jumps are all over the place. We're looking at the hand of the corpse. Lots of rings and stuff on it, which is interesting. We don't usually see Ganondorf looking like that, but we don't know what place or timeline he came from. Maybe his corpse was decorated for this when people put him here, which is a little weird because nobody likes him. I don't know. Maybe the Gerudo put him there. Who knows? But then we see the hand start to move as though being reanimated. We see Zelda turning around, being surprised. Then we get what is a very important shot. We see that the long hair coming off of the corpse is red, and there it's really your proof that, your strong evidence that this is your Ganondorf. That's the kind of thing that gives him away. Then we come up here, we get a better look at the face, and the funny thing is I originally thought this was someone else. I originally thought it was the King of Hyrule or something. It was really like watching again later and reading everyone else's reactions, noticing the red hair, probably him. But before that, it's just, I don't see a lot of his features in this face. And that's probably just because this is a desiccated corpse. The nose usually goes away with that kind of thing. So you don't get his prominent nose or anything like that. It just like overall didn't really look quite like him. But certainly looking at the jewelry, that really does look like Gerudo jewelry. We get a better look of it here, kind of hanging off of him. And then of course the crystal on the head, like absolutely the crystal on the head. Then we get a pretty important plot development here. Whatever's causing this, I don't know what it is, if it's the hand, if it's something else. But of course, get a little shake. We get him looking at the camera, and then his eyes glowing rather malevolently, if I might be so bold as to say this looks like a bad evil kind of guy with the glowy eyes like this. Probably. Definitely something bad happened here. And then we cut to an interesting shot. It is Hyrule Field, and we'll just play it at normal speed. Right at the end here, stuff starts to happen. Dust comes up, and it starts to rise up out of the ground. It rises up out of the ground, and this could mean so many things. This is, of course, what makes it feel like this is all taking place under the castle. Again, technically, could be somewhere else, and this is just a reaction to it. Could be a completely different part of the game. I don't really know. But we have to wonder what this means. I mean, castle rising up out of the ground. I'm getting very strong Mario vibes. Do you know what I mean? Like, the Breath of the Wild sequel, I would hope wouldn't take place in the exact same map, because that's just a little bit boring. I'd like to be in another kingdom. If it does take place in the same map, is this Hyrule Castle maybe rising up and revealing a whole series of dungeons and temples underneath? The whole second castle, like an ancient castle that's been buried, that this Hyrule Castle was built on top of it or something? And maybe that's why it was taking them so long to get down there. Maybe it's just really, really massive catacombs, big old, just abandoned castle that's been buried that they had to navigate. And now this thing is rising up, so we get this gross undead castle. That would be pretty cool. Or if this does take place somewhere else, maybe it's rising up and it's gonna sprout legs and walk away. It's definitely a possibility. And like I said, with the Mario vibes, maybe it's gonna float up into the sky. That's kind of a castle rising up. I think, oh, Bowser's got Peach again, and he's gonna take the castle. It's gonna go way up in the sky or something, like in Paper Mario. And like I try to look at the frames, like when it's coming up, see if I can like see any legs or something, or make out anything in the dust, but I really can't. You can kind of start to see something that almost look like legs that could just be a part of the architecture, or nothing. Sort of some little doodads there, but that's about it, and that's all that we get. Then, of course, it just cuts back to this with the little swirly-doos, which is a really cool visual style. I would love to see that more in, like, the marketing and maybe all that stuff. We see now, judging by this information right here, I'm gleaning from this. I'm assuming that this means a sequel to Breath of the Wild is now in development. And that is, of course, the end of the trailer. So, final thoughts on that. I really don't have a lot of thoughts that I didn't already express going through bit by bit, which is one of the reasons I wanted to do that, because that's all of our information right there, is all those manic, crazy little bits of visual info that we just got. I can't even get too far into speculating about what it might be like, where it might take place, and all that stuff. There's really just one thing, and if you've seen my commentary and my reaction and all that, you know already, but just, it's this tone. The fact that they have a new Zelda that's gonna come out. They wanted to show it to us. They wanted to market it to us, essentially. They wanted to give us a taste of its essence. That's usually what this kind of thing does, gives you a taste of what it is. So the idea that they would choose something this dark and weird to show us is more exciting than I can possibly tell you. Everybody, I mean, okay, not everybody, but so many people wanted the Majora's Mask thing. They wanted the sequel on the same system, using the same art style and everything to save time. And then, like, that was like the more realistic part. And then the unrealistic part of the wish was that it would also be weird and dark and spooky and all that stuff that Majora's Mask was. It just didn't seem very likely. Why would they do that again? They don't seem to be interested in spooky Zeldas, and I always dream about spooky Zeldas all the time. I look at Twilight Princess, and I look at Majora's Mask, and I think, like, is it ever gonna happen again? I don't really know, especially after the quiet beauty of Breath of the Wild. They're doing it. The very first thing they ever wanted to show us, like I've said, this trailer plays out like a horror movie, like a trailer for a horror movie. It's about a weird, scary corpse, which is not something that we see very often in Zelda. I mean, we see re-deads and stuff, but they don't even look like people. They really just look like they're monsters or something. You know, we see goofy skeletons, but we very rarely look at them like they're actually dead people. This is like, no, this is a weird, desiccated corpse down in a dungeon somewhere. And it's weird, and its fingers twitch, and it comes to life, and it looks at the screen, and it's just like, it's amazing. The whole entire theme that they've given us so far is of some sort of weird, reaching corruption, some sort of disgusting dark magic, this malice stuff. It's everything they showed us. That was the whole entire mood they wanted to set, and oh sure, it's possible that won't be represented in the real game. Maybe that's just one spooky intro, and then the rest is all bright and happy and pianos and stuff. But man, that score, the orchestra. You want to know something really scary about that orchestra thing? This shouldn't really scare me. It's just a little detail. But here, I'm gonna play it for you. So when I heard that first, I'm like, oh, it's obviously backwards. Like you could just tell by listening to it. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna be like some familiar theme played backwards or something, right? But here, let me play it backwards for you. You know, backwards again. So theoretically frontwards. Not really. It also just sounds weird and creepy when played the other way too. And like I've heard people say there may be little bits of Zelda songs from the series in there somewhere, but like it almost doesn't even matter if there actually is some real song layered in there, because it's not obvious. When I play it backwards, I get something that's basically just as unnerving, and that somehow scares me even more. You know, like this wasn't just them trying to be like, oh, it's backwards, but it's actually Zelda's Lullaby, or it's actually the Song of Storms, or whatever. It's just like, no, it just sounds weird, because it gives this such a weird, twisted, warped kind of feeling that goes so along with just what this is. Oh my gosh, I can't even express just how amazing this is, and how unexpected, and just, it's such a rare treat. I mean, like, this is like Metroid Prime 4 levels of surprise. You know, I knew another Zelda would come, but it looking like this, and Nintendo teasing it to us like this, in this way, establishing this mood, like giving us this extreme dark imagery. And we're used to sort of dark in Zelda games, to a point. There's always bad guys, there's always evil, there's always the Ganon and stuff, but like, it's never like this. It's never quite this this extremely dark, and especially not in a first teaser. That's not the sort of thing that they do. You know what I mean? The first teaser we saw for Breath of the Wild was just serenity. It was just beauty and big, and then there was like some danger with the Guardian that came along. No, not here. This game is gonna be something different. This might end up being, you know, I don't wanna get my hopes up. Like, there's some weird, creepy stuff in Majora's Mask, and of course the Twilight Princess, but this mood right here is above anything that we have seen in a Zelda game so far. And the fact that they gave us what looks to be sort of like a story trailer instead of any sort of gameplay, or instead of just being like, da-da-da-da, look, it's Link, we're developing the sequel. Like, we would have been pretty excited about that too. Like, no, it's important that we give this to the fans, that this represents, and like the fact that they're already working on the story, obviously, like there's some, that wasn't just random little visual bits. Like, they know what they're doing in the story, and they're obviously developing everything around that. I'm just amazed. I'm shocked and amazed and delighted and just ravenous to get more information, even though I would not be surprised if we didn't get literally any more information whatsoever until next year, because like I said, it didn't even give a year, and usually that means it's not coming next year. Like, they know if it's gonna come next year. Nothing said 2020, so 2021 probably at the absolute soonest, which means it won't be, you know, the absolute perfect 2-3 year Majora's Mask situation, but it might end up being slightly sooner than the usual 5 years or whatever. I don't know, but unfortunately, oh, so unfortunately, we just have to wait and see. You head on down to that comment section right now. You tell me what you see in this trailer. You tell me any visual details that I missed, any theories that you've got. Go nuts on it, man. We're talking about Zelda here. We're talking about Zelda hard. So you get on down to that comment section and you theorize your little hearts out, and I will see you later. I love you. Have a good day.